What's going on, guys? My name is Richard. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be covering BIGC or Big Commerce, which is my stock of the week. And in this video, we'll be talking about the story, the fundamental growth numbers, as well as the specific technical setup that I would use to trade this stock. And overall, BIGC has just broken out of its IPO base and definitely seems primed for more growth ahead, especially considering the e-commerce tailwinds. So if you enjoy my analysis, please go ahead and leave a like down below. It really does help me out and my channel. And subscribe if you are new and looking forward to more videos just like this one. And with that said, let's go ahead and get started by visiting its website and checking out kind of what they offer as a company. And overall, they are very similar to Shopify, as I said, and we will definitely be comparing kind of the two different companies, especially going over these articles right here. But overall, just kind of looking at the website, they offer a ton of different stuff, solutions for business to business, wholesale, multi-channel, international, headless e-commerce. And overall, going through, you can see the different plans here, and they kind of tier them so they target kind of smaller businesses down on this end, all the way up to enterprises up here. And based on these different price points, they offer different features. But even the most basic kind of plan offers a ton of different flexibility and really would benefit a ton of small businesses, especially considering not all of them can kind of have their established storefronts at this time given COVID-19. So going down, you can see that they do have a cap for kind of the amount of sales annually. So anything under 50K or anything over 50K, you have to upgrade your plan, which I thought was a little bit interesting. And going over to this page right here, this is their pitch to businesses who are potentially looking to start a store using BIGC. And you can see the process here. You start a trial, then you launch your store, and then you can use the features like SEO optimization to kind of enhance those sales. And then moving on, you've also got this page right here, which is their pitch to enterprise clients who potentially don't want to set up the page for themselves. And instead, BIGC will offer their launch services and help them get set up the data analytics, everything that they might need. And moving on, we've also got the features that BIGC offers, basically everything you might need when you're setting up a store, data analytics, customization, and a whole bunch of different features, very similar to Shopify. Really, I couldn't imagine you really wanting anything more than what BIGC offers in terms of flexibility. You can link it with different APIs, which is definitely very useful, especially for the bigger companies. And also, you can see that they have case studies. So if you want to learn more about companies that have actually used BIGC, there's definitely some brand names in here. Skull Candy is a popular one. And on this page right here, you've also got some featured sites that use the platform. And in general, if you just want to get a brief kind of 15-minute summary of what BIGC is and kind of what it offers, I definitely suggest checking out this video, which will be in the description below. A great summary. And overall, I think this is a very promising company with a lot of room to grow, especially because e-commerce as a whole is growing incredibly fast. And that really is exemplified in this article right here, where you've got 67% of small businesses and 78% of consumers have adopted new behaviors, including e-commerce, while adjusting to this new normal. So I don't think e-commerce is going away. It's easier to use, it's safer, and those are huge driving forces. And to learn a little bit more about what this company actually does and its comparison to Shopify, I also went ahead and read these 4 articles right here, which will be linked below in the description. But summarizing the main points, you can see in this one, Big Commerce currently operates about 60,000 online stores, and that represents about 1% of e-retail websites. And overall, you can see that the trend of e-commerce is not widely adopted yet because 74% of small retailers currently do not have an e-commerce enabled website. So as I said, I think both Shopify and Big Commerce are riding the tailwinds of this new movement because it's safer, it's more convenient, it's faster. There's so many benefits to e-commerce, and I think that this 1% market share will continue to grow, and hopefully they can extend their reach as well. So that's it for that article, and I found this one very interesting. They basically compare the product of both Shopify and BIGC, and the main takeaway for me is that they do have slightly different pricing models. For instance, Shopify charges anywhere from 0.5 to 2% for kind of payments going through their platform, while BIGC does not. So that might make it a little bit more attractive for smaller businesses who don't want to pay that extra fee, which definitely can go a long way. And moving on to this article from the Motley Fool, which brings up a ton of important points. Should Shopify investors be worried about BigCommerce's debut? And they talk about how Shopify is 15 times bigger than BigCommerce. And they also talk about net recurring revenue, which gives you a sense of how integrated clients are with their chosen platform. And you can see that BigCommerce is about 106%, which is quite good, but they estimate that Shopify is that or greater, meaning it has a larger moat. And they also talk about how the App Store for the two different companies has a large difference. Shopify has 4,600 apps built into their store, while BigCommerce only has 600. So it doesn't kind of give and provide as many features as Shopify. And they also talk about the fulfillment network for Shopify, which could be a huge selling point for larger companies that gives them a chance of matching Amazon. And BigCommerce has no plans for that as of yet. And finally, this article also brings up that Shopify is still founder-led while BigCommerce is not. And I know this is a huge sticking point for a bunch of different investors. And overall, I think this is a point in favor for Shopify. But lastly, we've got this article from Bazinga, and this is about the news that broke just today that BigCommerce is being integrated into Instagram. And overall, I think this is a huge pro in favor of BigCommerce because that kind of opens up a whole new demographic of potential clients and also customers. So that's kind of the summary of the news and what this company actually does, the story behind the stock. And now let's talk about the fundamental numbers in Marketsmith. So bringing that up, we've got these earnings and sales reports down here. And you can see kind of steady 20 to 30% growth down here. So not fantastic, but decent. And overall, you can see last quarter, it was not yet profitable. Sales were up 30%, and after-tax margins were down 12.1%. And looking at the annual estimates, you can see it's too new of a company to have that reported just yet. And overall, looking at its EPS rating, it's a 44. The Group RS is a strong A+. The SMR rating is not available. Accumulation distribution is not available. And the overall composite rating is an 85. And taking a look at the fund ownership, you can see there's no details just yet. But this did IPO just a few days ago, so this is completely normal. And I'm sure that with these 2 consecutive days on huge volume, up 30% and then 30% again, there has to be funds driving up this stock and getting in. So overall, I think the fundamental numbers are very strong. And let's go over to a weekly chart and take a look at that up-down volume, which is very strong at 2.3. And taking a look at the return on equity, you can see it's not available just yet. But overall, from the fundamental point of view, I think that this stock is very promising, especially considering it's riding the e-commerce tailwinds, and it's got that nice revenue growth overall. So definitely something to watch for the next few weeks, few months, especially once we get this earnings report out of the way. So with that said, let's go over to TC2000 and talk about potential setups, because there are ways to play IPOs that are less risky than just buying on that first day. You can see it moved up and then moved way back down, a huge swing. So it's definitely very risky to get in on that first day, even if there is a ton of volume. So overall, looking through this chart, you can see I drew a downward trend line from this point on the 6th down to this day when it broke out on the 21st. So this is kind of how I would have potentially gotten into this stock, playing this IPO base, trying to get in a little bit early, but I wouldn't be going big because these are very risky. Almost all of them undercut that first day's price. So you want to go small and kind of stagger your buys. So you're only buying when it's proving itself and moving up the right side of this IPO base. So if you want to buy within this base, you start when it breaks character and starts a potential uptrend on this day. You can see it had a short-term stochastic cross, and you start small on this day, you sit on your hands on this day, but then as it proves itself and breaks above this high right here, you buy as it goes up and gradually build up your position. And from the close on this day, the expectation was that it continued to move up and break out from this IPO base, and that's exactly what happened. And you see volume coming in once again, and on this day as well, it's finishing right near the top of the trading range, showing a lot of strength. And this is really a kind of footprint of institutional buying because nobody else can really afford that many shares of stock. It's just too much money. So you kind of want to play this a little bit cautiously at first because it is an IPO, But as you build your cushion, as it continues to move up and prove itself and form that right side of the IPO base, that's when you go a little bit heavier and build up your position to potentially a 10% of your portfolio. And overall, there are a handful of other names that I'm watching similar to this, such as Lemonade, which is building that right side of the base. You can see I've drawn in the downward trend line right here. And one thing that I really like about the stock is it actually had a stronger day than Big C had, because it finished right near the top of the trending range and had a follow-on day. So that could be a good sign going forward, and this is definitely one that I will be watching. But going back to Big C, in terms of setups that you could use to trade the stock now, if you're very aggressive, you can go intraday to a 15-minute or 65 minutes and try to find some pullback buys. You've got some green dots in there. And if you go to a 15-minute, you could play some intraday downward trend lines or something like that. But personally, I'm waiting for it to settle down, form a price shelf similar to a whole bunch of other winners. And then you buy when it breaks that downward trend line within that shelf and moves up once again. So overall, I think my take is fundamentally this stock is very strong. It's riding the tailwinds of e-commerce, and technically it's acting beautifully, really showing signs of institutional accumulation, and I think it has a very bright future. But once again, I want to reiterate that this is short-term extended, and you want to see back and fill form a shelf, and I think it would be completely normal for it to fall basically half this bar right here, form a nice shelf, and then break out once again. So don't get greedy. Don't just jump in because it's going up or because people on Twitter are posting about it. Wait for your spots and find a good risk reward entry point. So that's it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like down below and subscribe if you're new to the channel. And I'll see you guys in future videos.